time for round two of Chiefs Chargers. They played in week one. It was an excellent Sunday night contest. We got to see a little bit of back and forth. We got to see both these teams when they were at their best. However, for the Chargers, we probably won't see that same team the rest of the season because they have been hit by a catastrophic amount of injuries. I'm a Niners fan, so I had a little bit of sympathy watching them. Watching bodies drop in that Sunday night game, drop like flies, was a little uncomfortable. Kind of gave me a little bit of that empathy from seeing years of the Niners players. In fact, even early part of this year, do much of the same. I think the biggest injuries, of course, to monitor are Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's been just a mess all season. If you own him in fantasy, sorry. Mike Williams, he went down with a high ankle a couple weeks ago. They showed him before the Sunday night game, doing some pregame work, doing some stretching. He looked close, but it's always hard to tell with high ankles. Speaking of weapons that may miss time, Gerald Everett left Sunday's game with a groin injury. They lost two more defensive linemen for the season. This is while Joey Bosa is still out nursing his groin injury. And Khalil Mack even got a little bit banged up. So the Chargers, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if you guys need to take a strong look at your training staff, your weights program, your strength and conditioning.
Juju. Would that be the same training staff that still employs the doctor that punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung? Is that the same training staff we're talking about?
I guess that is a really good point to go back to just in general. And I guess, I just look at the top because you talk about firing and rehiring a new training staff. You have to look at who owns this team. The cheapest owner in the league, Dean Spanos. Yeah, he's not going to spend any money. Sorry, guys. You're just going to have to deal with this one. At least you'll have a thorough supply of Band-Aids and
I don't want to trigger the YouTube algorithm, so this is me giving Dean Spanos the bird.
That's close enough. It's kind of like the Friends thing,
Fuck Dean Spanos, dun, 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 dun. Fuck Dean Spanos. Okay, so basically, remember a couple weeks ago, well, you were the only one who know this, but our friend Eris in the Slump Buster Fantasy Football Guy, he dropped the injury rankings for the season, but they gave grades based on who is the most and least injured. The Chargers were 32 out of 32, and this was before Mike Williams got hurt. So the Chargers already had the worst injury luck in the NFL prior to losing not just him, but also Guyton's been out for a while now for them. Like it's been just
Dustin Hopkins. It even goes down to their kicker. And I'm okay with it because it's allowed the introduction of Dicker, the kicker from the University of Texas,
who, by the way, pulled his hamstring and made 4 kicks in the Monday night game against the Broncos. So, like, even he is dealing with injuries while pulling off heroic bullshit wins for the Chargers. Like,
I don't know. Have they ever heard of drinking some water, stretching a little?
Let's also acknowledge Justin Herbert has been playing with torn rib cartilage since week 3. That's a 8 to 12 week injury from what I've been told, and he's just playing through it. Even Justin Herbert is suffering from an injury as well, but he doesn't even show up on this list because he's been playing through it.
And it's something that's plagued them for close to a decade. It feels like the Chargers have perennially been hurt despite whoever is the coaching staff that's currently employed at said time. So I don't know. It's a systematic thing. Obviously, it's football. There's a luck element. There's a luck element to injuries. But when there's this many injuries, I feel like you have to start doing some self-reflection.
Especially when it's the Chargers organization. And like, I know we're making these jokes, but like former players have come out. DJ Fluker is one of the people who's been very vocal on this. He's a former offensive lineman who's like, it's different in San Diego. He used to be San Diego. It's different in San Diego than it is in other organizations. Like, you don't get treated with the same level of like professionalism. You don't get the same perks you get in other organizations. Like, it's well documented. The Chargers are cheap as shit. The Chargers just run things differently than other teams. And I don't know how much that's changed now that they get that Los Angeles money and that property value, but like, it's just different with the Chargers. And I'm not saying that that's conducive to injuries this year specifically. This is just more of a macro level conversation about that organization.
You know how I know it hasn't changed? Because Dean Spanos employed the cheapest head coach he could find on the open market. Brandon Staley. Someone who I am surprised is still employed to this day, even though the Chargers are 5-4, they're still well in the thick of the playoff picture. So you don't have to necessarily press the panic button right away. They were in a tight game with the 49ers on Sunday, so they're still competing, I guess. But I have seen this man just cost the Chargers so many games with his decision making that I am questioning, what are you doing wasting prime Justin Herbert? Now he's only going to get more expensive from here, and we'll see how this season's production kind of affected him. Going against the Chiefs, we haven't even talked about the Chiefs yet because the Chargers' injury woes have just been so impressive, honestly, just impressive how injured they are. Mm-hmm. But the Chiefs, they entered this game as 7-point favorites. The Chiefs, number 1 seed in the AFC again. Their offense, they've really figured out things in the wake of losing Tyreek Hill, but they're a different offense. They don't look the same as they did in years past. They're just finding new ways to get things done. One of those new ways is Kadarius Toney, former first-round pick of the New York Giants, who scored his first NFL touchdown this past week. Did a little hop step, which I'm sure infuriated Giants fans, knowing the hamstring issues that he was dealing with throughout the early part of the season. How much of that was intentional? How much of that was incidental? I don't know. But either way, in a Chiefs uniform, we're seeing the best version of Kadarius Toney in his first real game with the team. He adds a different dimension to this offense. We go back to some of the strengths people were saying on draft day about Kadarius Toney. Athletic, fast, can get open. Kind of sounds a lot like a guy named Tyreek Hill. We'll see if that you could live up to that value. But certainly when you talk about just a pure athlete, he can be that for them, for this Chiefs offense, because they didn't find that in Sky Moore.
Well, the best example I can point to is Mecole Hardman, which, by the way, if you follow the math on this, they gave up a 3rd and a 5th for Kadarius Toney. They will get a compensatory pick back when Mecole Hardman leaves in free agency this year. So perhaps that adds some value back in that Toney trade. Last thing I will point to as it relates to the Chargers, for all the stuff we just talked about with their injuries, they're fighting for the 7 seed in the AFC playoffs against the Jets and the Patriots. And even with everything that's gone wrong, I'm like, God, they have Justin Herbert and those teams have Zach Wilson and Mac Jones. So at least they've got a puncher's chance.
Here's what I can say to that easy counter there. God, the Patriots have Bill Belichick. God, the Chargers have Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
Even Robert Saleh, I will say, I mean, a little bias here, years of seeing him as a defensive coordinator, but Robert Saleh, Brandon Staley in a vacuum. Give me Robert Saleh. I'm seeing the changes on this Jets team. And aside from the quarterback, the Jets are good at every other position.
I don't know if Robert Saleh is good or bad. I'm pretty sure I know Brandon Staley's not that good. So I think that I kind of agree with you on that. So now I get to take my victory lap on everything I said at the start of the year, which is, ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback I have ever seen play football. Andy Reid is the greatest offensive coach in the history of the NFL. Him and Bill Walsh are the only two that stack up. I'm giving it to Andy Reid for longevity and different stops that he's done it at. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, bet on that. Don't bet on the Raiders. Don't bet on the Broncos. Don't even bet on the Chargers. Bet on Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, regardless of whatever else you go to, because your problems all look a lot less like problems when you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid on your team. And lo and behold, Kansas City has a 99% chance of making the playoffs, according to NBC's Steve Kornacki graphic. And they have an 88% chance to win the division, a number I'm sure will go way up after they beat the shit out of the Chargers this weekend at SoFi Stadium. Y'all, I've been saying it for 4 years. I'm going to say it again. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to win 15 AFC West titles in 16 years. This year is 7 in a row. It's going to be 8 of the next 9. We're going to look up one day and it's going to be like, the Broncos haven't made the playoffs in 15 years. It's been 30 years since the Raiders won a playoff game. I'm telling you, bet on Kansas City every single year. One year they might lose the division. Totally possible. Weird shit happens. Bet on them every single year. Always bet on red. Always go red. Don't bet on green. Bet on red. Kansas City with Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to win that division every single year, the exact same way the Patriots did, where we're going to look up in 15 years and be like, the Broncos haven't made the playoffs in 15 years, just like we did with the Buffalo Bills. Hey, the Raiders haven't won a playoff game in 30 years as of 2032. just like the Miami Dolphins. I'm telling you, bet on Kansas City, because even when they have problems, those problems are a lot easier to solve when you have Patrick Mahomes. They still have the number 2 ranked offense in the NFL this season, despite the fact they got rid of Tyreek Hill. Bet on Kansas City, and bet on Kansas City this weekend. Money line, parlay, whatever you want to do, just bet on Kansas City. Always bet on Kansas City.
You're telling me that I need to bet on the team that barely beat Malik Willis by 3? Come on, Kyle. Get it together.
The Kansas City Chiefs went 27-1 in starts for Patrick Mahomes after the last time they lost to Tennessee. Trust me, bet on Kansas City. Bet on Kansas City.
Ryan Tannehill was just
time.
in that game. Clearly, they would have won by 2 touchdowns. It's just such a pity. Anyway, I'm taking the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Los Angeles Chargers this week because I don't trust Brandon Staley. But you know what I do trust? This injury report is too damn big. And any team that is missing their top 2 wide receivers, is down to practice squad defensive linemen, has backups filling in on the offensive line. Their best player offensively at this point, aside from their quarterback, is a small running back that should just be a third down running back in Austin Eckler. Any team that is dealing with all of that cannot win most NFL games, but not especially when they're going against the Kansas City Chiefs, which are the top team in the conference. So the Chargers don't have a chance this week. I am going to take them to win, but I will be happy to, of course, troll my co-host whenever I have the opportunity to do such from time to time. Anyway, guys, let us know below in the comments section what you think of this upcoming matchup in the AFC West. Will it be the Los Angeles Chargers with a surprise victory? Will it be the Kansas City Chiefs rolling? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all our social medias. From Juju, from Kyle, stay safe, happy, and healthy. We will see you next time.